Good morning. This is Therese with Polkadots here with our October class for Crafters Classroom. Give everybody a couple minutes to join in. We're doing a few different techniques today, so that's kind of fun. My favorite watercolor one. And then there's some things that are, everything pretty much came in your kit. There are some things that you're going to need that are not in your kit. So your kit included a die, so you'll need a die cutting machine nearby. And so this is super cute. I love it. And then your kit also included this stamp set. So you're going to need a die cutting machine, some acrylic blocks. Probably the biggest one is this, maybe 3 by 5 to hold this one. And I have a little bit longer one for this. So a few different acrylic blocks that you'll need. You'll need a water misting tool. So have that handy, that's gonna create these watercolor looks here. Some adhesive. You'll want something to adhere these very detailed die cutouts. So either a chisel tip tool or a fine tip adhesive would be great. We're also going to use some water-based markers. Gives us this look here. I'm a little very non-traditional Christmassy, so I'm using some different kind of colors here. So just have whatever you like to have. For sure a black, and because we'll get that in the detail there. And then just whatever, if you want to stay with more traditional greens and reds, that's fine. I'm a little so. Okay, so it's about a 45-minute class, so we're gonna get started. You have everything in your kit. We're gonna start with kind of making these tags here. So if you want to take out your section of your kit that includes these items. So we're going to have the kind of red and green and the silver, and then this gold and ivory. A few little ribbons here. They're all in an envelope, okay? All right, so we'll start with that. So I'm going to move this off to the side. The other thing not included in your kit is some stickles, which I use a Stardust. So I used it on a couple of the pieces that we're making. This is definitely something that you do at the end. So it's not in your kit. You don't have to do it. But if you want to add a little detail later, and it takes a while to dry anyway. So, all right, we're going to kind of work on these two here. I'm going to come in a little closer, but I'm going to be working off camera a little bit on my die machine. So we have some ribbons here. So we're going to be cutting out the tag die out of the silver. So this is in your kit. So we're going to cut that out like so, okay? I'm off camera for this. Now, if you place it correctly, like if you want to put it exactly in the middle of that piece, you can use the base for another project. So I'm going to center it on here. Whenever you're die cutting anything, it's nice that you can use the opposite. Okay, so what I just cut out, I could use this on a different project. So I'm going to set it off to the side. We're not doing that today, but that's an option. Okay, always have to use the negative of whatever you cut out is a bonus. All right, so now I have that, so I'm gonna take my green. That's just normal on there. And then I'm gonna take the red piece and use my die that says do not open. Now again, I'm gonna use the cutout on my project, but I could use the background on something else. That makes sense. Okay. So off camera, just cutting that out on the red. Well, this one's a little different because there's so many background pieces, so this one doesn't work out as great unless you save all these tiny little pieces, but I'm not gonna do that. So we're gonna just use this red, get that all out of there. All right. I'm gonna need my tweezers or scissors. So then this is gonna get attached to the green. Might have to pop some of these out here. All right. So just getting all that taken care of. And then this is where you need a tiny glue pen. Or like a chisel tip pen. And then we're gonna attach that to the green. So either one, you just need a fine tip glue pen. And I'm going to attach that to the green here. I just kind of centered everything, so nothing crazy. But a super cute die. This is fun. You could easily do this and just do multiples at a time. Then we're going to attach that green. So this would be fun to do. Just line up 20 of these and make them for your gifts. And we have that centered on there. Now I'm going to take my little green ribbon that came in with you. It's a little green ribbon. Now this is a slip knot, so I'm going to actually fold it in half and then slip it through and come back through that opening as a slip knot. You can also go from the back and it does the same thing. Or you can just tie it, but so cute. Okay, moving on to the next tag. So I did a little gold and ivory here. So we're gonna cut out this background so it's the die in your kit that looks like this. We're gonna use that on the gold. And then we're gonna do the tag in your kit on the ivory. Okay, so we'll go do that. Again, if you place this right in the center, you can use the negative on a different project, okay? So keep that in mind when you're cutting. So this is the piece I'm going to use. This is my negative if you want to use that on something else. All right. So then I'm going to cut out the tag. All right, so here's my tag that I cut out. Again, here's my negative, so I could use that on something else. Okay, keep that in mind always. All right, and I'm gonna attach that there. I'm gonna cut out again the do not open until the 25th die that's in your kit. Some of these papers, especially the glitter papers, are a little thicker. So you might have to run them through your machine a couple times. Just depends on what how tight your machine is. Okay. So then I'm gonna just use this, okay? I can't believe we're working on Christmas stuff. I know it's not that far away, but all right, so then it's getting this all taken care of here. Gonna take my chisel tip glue, lots of little pieces on this one to take out, so just have to be a little careful. But it's a super cute die. All right. So then I'm just going to use my chisel tip or a small tip glue pen. Mine didn't cut this out that great, but we're going to attach it to here. And then again, the slip knot with the gold ribbon. So a slip knot, you can either go from the front or you can go from behind, but you fold it in half. So the last one I did from the front, so I'll go from behind this time. Either way, it's the same type of knot, and then you fold it in half and slip it through the opening that creates that. Okay, we are on to our coloring technique. So don't forget to use your negatives on some other projects, like save those. And the next two pieces we're gonna make, we're still using that die. So keep your die cutting machine nearby, and we'll make a card using that. And then we're gonna make this card too. So no die cutting on this one, just some coloring techniques. Okay, so you'll want some water-based markers nearby. Again, either traditional Christmas colors or whatever your favorite colors are to work with. Those are the two dies or the two tags we made. I'm gonna move those off to the side. Let's focus on this one. So now that you have your die cutting machine handy, you're going to take this part out of your kit. So it's got a little piece of black twine and a ivory base card and envelope, a black. We're going to use this black piece and the ivory. We're going to cut that out, okay? So again, we're going to cut this piece out of here. Out of here. You're out of here. I sound like Jennifer. Anyway, if you center it, you can use the negative on a different project. Okay, so just be careful when you're cutting if you want to reuse something. Okay. All right, so this is what I have, and this is what I mean by the negative. So that could easily go onto a different piece. You see that? All right, so I'm just gonna set that off to the side with my other negatives because I can use those later. So that piece, and the black, I'm gonna cut out the tag again, and again, center it on there so you can use it for something else. All right, these are my pieces. So this is the one I'm going to use. This is my negative, again, for maybe something else. Don't be afraid, you guys, to like flip it upside down or do something sideways, or cut part of it off. You know, there's all kinds of things you can do. Nothing right or wrong. All right, so that's going to go kind of like that. Now, we're going to do some coloring. So what you're going to need to have is a water misting tool, all right, and the water-based markers. So in your kit came this stamp set. Beautiful, penny black, love it. The thing about working with this technique is you can change things just by changing the color that you're choosing, right? So this could be, you know, your basic green. You could do purple or blue or whatever, your yellows, whatever you kind of like to use, and just make it a totally different look. So that's the beauty of kind of working this technique. So I'm going to use this, my little black, I'm going to set off to the side here. I'm going to get some scrap paper. And because I am stamping off the bottom here, okay? So I know there's not a lot of contrast on here, but I'm gonna just be mostly using this part. I'm gonna be coloring up, so the larger piece in your set is what I'm using, is this top left corner, and I'm kind of angling off a little bit like that. So I like to, gonna start with, there's black right here, and see that? So I'm gonna start with the black, start with the kind of the inside coloring first. That way you're not having to come back in after you color. That makes sense. Now I'm not exactly sure how much I'm going to be using, so I'm going to overcompensate here. Depending on how you stamp. So I always like over color so that I make sure I have everything I need. All right, then I'm going to come in with some green. And like, if like my markers, what am I using on this, on the Tombos? They have a wider base and then a narrow base tip. So that's kind of nice to have those options. Just be careful when you're coloring. And you can take your time doing this, like if you had to go to the bathroom right now, or you had to go grab some more coffee, whatever, answer the door. You can set this down and just come back to it later because we're going to reactivate the color with water. I'm just going to make sure I get all of this. All right. Now, I'm going to come in and get these top flowers here. Mine already have some stickles on it, so the color is a little different. But this is what I used. Stickles is always at the very end anyway, so we're not using it as part of the class. But you can definitely add it as some detail later on. Okay, so now I am going to spritz this with water and stamp it. And we're going to do some generation stamping. So what that means is we're going to stamp twice with the same coloring. So I colored it once. I'm going to stamp it once and then stamp it again on the envelope. So in your kit came the envelope for this card. I'm going to stamp off in the corner. So I want to have that nearby. So my first image is going to be this one on the tag. So I am at a little bit of an angle. You can do however you want. It doesn't have to be exactly how it is on your block. You can angle it off. So I'm going to do that a little bit. And then I'm going to re-moisten the stamp with water and stamp again on my envelope in the corner. You don't have to be super speedy about this, so don't worry. So I'm going to take my water misting tool. Now the trick to this is just try to determine how much water you need. And by that, once you start spraying your water, watch it fall down onto the stamp and your image or your coloring. You can also tell because there's going to be water that ends up on your block. If it's easier to see on your block how much water you're actually using. You want to use a fair amount to get a kind of washed out watercolor look. If you don't use a lot, it's gonna look not as watercolory. I don't know, it makes sense. It's not even a word. Okay, but this is where the practice kind of comes in. But watch as you, I mean, I probably spritzed like 20 times, but I have a very light mister. So you can see the water build up on there. That's about what you want. If you want a little more, then you add a little more. I'm thinking a little more on this one. So now I'm just going to stamp on my tag or my background of the tag. Like that. Oh my gosh, so pretty. I love this technique, you guys. Okay, now there's enough color left on here that I'm going to do what we call second generation stamping. And I'm going to stamp on my envelope in the corner. Okay? So don't need as much water this time because there's already a lot of moisture on there. So maybe like 10 little spritz. And then I'm just going to go in the corner here. Look it. Come on. Okay, now I could probably do another stamping on this. In fact, I'm going to do it just so we can look and see what happens here. A little bit more water. And then you could stamp on something else. I'm just doing it on my scrap paper. Now, obviously, a less dynamic color of an image, but certainly something you could use. So by coloring once, you can get 1, 2, 3 images from that. Okay, so super cool technique. I love it. It's beautiful. we're going to finish our card here, and we're going to make another one. So just attaching what we just stamped, should be dry by now. Here's the envelope that coordinates. Come on. I love it so much. Okay. Just attaching this. And any questions, you guys? I'm solo, so I can't always see any questions coming in or comments, but hope all is good. Okay, so I'm attaching that. And then in your kit came the base card. Now again, I know I say this 100 times, but you want to fold your base card so the bump goes to the inside. I have to think of myself. So the bump goes in. That's because when it's scored for you, the fibers are stretched, so you don't get that cracking on that spine. All right. And then this one too, I did do a little slip knot, so you fold it in half. Not as much ribbon to work with here. That's okay. Slip it through. You create that opening. You can slip it through the front or the back. Either way, still a slip knot. And then I'm going to attach that there. If you want to do it up here to allow for a saying of something down there, you can do that too. Or you can just go right in the center. But I'm going to go down here. All right. And this is my favorite technique to teach. I hope you're learning something today. And I'm just gonna do equal distance from the top, bottom, and the two sides, or from the two sides and the bottom. A little off there. Okay. So now you have a card and a coordinating envelope. That's super cute, right? Okay, like I said, at the end of the class, if you want to go through and add some detail with some stickles, that's what I did here. So it just gave a little bit more of a shiny, shimmery, sparkly. Okay. So our last card is the ornament one. Ta-da! We're going to do the same thing. We're going to color, we're going to water mist, and then we're going to second generation stamp on the envelope. So choose your colors that you want. And we're going to stamp more than once on this one. So we're going to have to clean our stamp in between. So you're going to want some paper towel. Okay, so we're going to stamp it once and then change our color of the ornament and then stamp it twice. Okay, so you want some paper towel, some extra water, because we're going to have to clean off this stamp. For your watering tool, or if you're nearby a sink, you can just water that off. Okay. Cuteness, more cuteness. All right. So the last part of your kit is the card that holds the part that we're going to stamp on, the black layer behind it, and then your base card and envelope. So right now we're just going to work with the ivory that we're going to stamp on. And you want some scrap paper because we're stamping off up on that top corner. Okay, or a craft mat or whatever you have. Again, we're going to start with the inside. So I used some black. So we're going to use our black again. Black marker. And I'm going to do the entire, the branches and then this little ornament holder. No, we're stamping, we're not gonna see the whole thing, but I'm gonna color everything. So I'm gonna go to the inside first and work my way out. So I'm using the black on those little branches. Okay. And then I used a little bit of this kind of a green and blue for the leaves on the branches. So this is my blue color, so I'm just gonna kind of go a couple places here. Might do this big one. I oftentimes try not to think too much about it and just kind of do it randomly. And you know, that's the beauty of this. Like, you can use the same stamp and just do different things with it just by color. So that's pretty cool. I'm coming in with my green. We're gonna clean this stamp off for the next one anyway, so it's okay. All right. Now I have my ornament color. Let's do, I'm gonna use this kind of a red. Okay, now you can see, like, it's not a solid, right? So what I love about penny black red rubber stamps is the detail. So there's detail in this red rubber already. So just by coloring it with a marker, there's already detail there. So it's not a solid image because it's already embedded in that red rubber to give it detail. So you can see that, right? So it's not going to be perfect solid image, and it's on purpose, it's by design. So we're going to use water and rain down on that, and we're going to stamp here, right like that, okay? Again, I'm probably going to use quite a bit of water here. And now it also depends on if you let this dry, like if you had to go do something and come back, you might need a little bit more water. But I like to overcompensate on the water than underestimate the water, because we're going for a watercolor look, so that's what you kind of want. So I'm going about here. I'm going to come back in on my second stamp over here. Oh my gosh, come on. Guys, I love it so much. Okay, so our next stamp is going to be about like that. We're going to clean this off. Now I wanted to do different blues and greens up here, so I cleaned the whole stamp off, okay? Now you can do that just with water in a sink, or you can spray it, but you're going to need some paper towel to kind of dry it off. And we're going to start over again. Okay, but this next time, we're going to use a little different, try to change up your blues and greens on your branch. And then we're going to stamp on the envelope as well, so have that handy. Okay, so it's going to look, we're going to do a second generation stamping, so it's going to be a little bit lighter, but the same image. So have your envelope nearby. Okay, coloring again. Hold on, I gotta get more water in here. So we're gonna start again on the inside with that black. On the branches. And a little ornament topper. Make sure we get that. Okay, and then again, blues and greens. I'm going to start with blue. I'm going to try to do like something different than I did on the first one. So I think I did those two. So again, no right or wrong, just kind of, this is the fun part of it, is just making it different, because you don't have to do exactly what you did the first time. Okay. So I'm coloring up the whole thing, even though we're not using everything. I see some comments coming in. I wish I could see, but I can't. All right. I got my branch and my leaves done, blue and green. Now I'm going to change up the ornament color for this one. So I'm going to use like fuchsia color. Again, Red Rubber by Penny Black. Love it. There's so much detail in here that you don't have to worry about. You just have to stamp it. I think I took off some of this here, so I'm going to reapply my black to that ornament top. Okay. So now this time I'm going to stamp like right up about here. And that is so that you have room for a sentiment if you want later on. We're not going to do that in class, but we're going to stamp this, and then we're going to second generation stamp on our envelope. So have that close by. Again, I'm going off camera. I'm going to get this water misting tool. Again, pretty much water. Maybe 30 squirts. I just kind of let it rain down, and you can see it puddle up on there. I'd rather overcompensate with the water than have it be too dry. We're going for the watercolor look here. Okay, so up here. Beautiful. Love it so much. All right, I got my envelope nearby. I'm going to stamp off in the corner, like down on that lower left corner. So I'm going to re-moisten. There's still color left behind on here. So even though you color once, you can use the image more than once. So I'm just going to let that rain down on there. Again, more water is better than less. You can see it kind of built up on the block and the stamp. I'm just going to go like right here. So cute. Ooh, that's a lot of water. Okay. Perfect. Beautiful. So generation stamping. So I actually have enough color on here. I could probably stamp again. Okay. So before we finish our last card, which is all we have to do is kind of some layering, and our envelope that coordinates. So cute. We are going to, I have a giveaway, right? So I have two Penny Black dies to give away today. This frame one that's kind of cool, gives you like a little image on the back side how to use it, and then another fun little detail die. So that is going to go to the person that can tell me the name of the die that you got in your kit. So I need the name of the die that you got in this kit, and you will win these two dies. All right, so it's going to reply back to me on that, and we're going to just then assemble this card. So in your kit came the black sorry, the little black piece for our back base here. So I'm going to attach that. You can use whatever adhesive you like. And all right, still waiting for the winner. Whoever can tell me the name of that die. Now, I'm just centering that on here. Equal distance, left to right, top to bottom. And then that goes onto my base card. Again, folding it so that the bump goes to the inside. It's like the opposite of what you want to do. I know I say it every time, but I just have to. Okay, so we're going to attach that. And my store just opened, so Bonnie's here to work the store today. And we're just gonna have a great Saturday. I hope everybody has one. Okay, so again, equal distance, top to bottom, left to right, just centering it on there. Beautimous. I love it. So again, I added some stickles, which is a glitter glue. So if you have that in your supplies, I used it a little bit up here, and I just went around the ornaments a little bit. It takes a while to dry, so it's not something we had in class. But so we made 1, 2, oops, 2 cards and 2 tags. I did use the stickles on this one too. I was into sparkly, I guess, for October. All right. So that is the class today. I think the next class is Stamplistic. That follows me in about 3 or 4 minutes. Okay, have a great day, everybody. Thanks for joining me.